Hi, my name is Steve Rawiszer. I'm Hearing Conservation Specialist with the California State Department of Health Services, and I am your instructor for today. We're going to be talking about hearing screening. You have an audiometer, you have earphones, you put earphones on, you press a button, you do it, you don't do it. If you've ever heard anybody say that a child's tuning the screen, unable to screen, can't be screened, not reliable, not testable, it is typically not the child, it is you. It is how you're bringing the child into the room, it's what you're saying to the child, it's how you're using the audiogram, it's how you're using the audiometer. Those things are what makes it difficult for you to do the screenings. So today we're going to show you how that you can screen these children. We're going to start with the 3-year of age all the way up to 21 years of age, and that with the right techniques, the right procedures, that you'll be able to screen these kids, and you'll be certified to be screening these kids in your clinic or in the Head Start program. If this is the audiogram that you're using in your clinic or Head Start program, stop, don't use it. This is not a screening audiogram. This audiogram is going to create problems for you, because what it's telling me is that you're not doing a screening. You're doing a diagnostic evaluation. Also, a lot of things that occur when I see people using this type of audiogram, you have a tendency to ask the child to raise their hand when you're doing a hearing screening. Please never ask a child to raise their hand when you're doing hearing screenings. We're going to show you how to do play audiometry later. It's a block, it's something very easy they're accustomed to. Stay away from hands. If the child or adult, whoever you're screening at the time, passes, there's no reason for you to mark it on the audiogram. Because this is what happens to you. You're set up, you have the child sitting there, your audiometer, everything's ready to go, and you press the button, the child responds. So you go over to score that. So you take your pen and you make a check, and you put check. Then you come back to the audiometer. Look how much time that took. That took forever. You're now increasing the length of time. If the child passes, I can do 1,000 kids. If they all pass, I never touch an audiogram. The only time I touch an audiogram is when they did not pass, and I want to mark and score that. That's essential, because you don't want to forget what frequency they didn't hear it. So what happens is that if I have a child now who does not respond, I'm going to go over to the audiogram to mark that, to score that. But what I want you to do is not do this. Listen, beep. Okay? That short period of time of quiet, the kid's going, what did I do wrong? What happened? I must have done something wrong. So when you are scoring this, you need to be talking to the child. So after the child does not respond, you go over to the audiogram. Oh, I got to write this down so I don't forget who I'm playing with. And then while you're talking, score it, and then come back to the child. Now the child is hearing your voice, is hearing that you're happy, everything's still going great, and doesn't have any concern that there was a problem. I do have to tell you that the CCS program, the California Children's Services Program, you can refer any child who fails a hearing screening 2 times, but for that program you have to wait 6 weeks. If you're not referring to CCS, then you can refer. If I'm in Head Start and I have a child, I wait my 2 to 4 weeks, somewhere in there, 2 to 6 weeks. It's 3 weeks. I do rescreen. I can refer to the doctor's office based on that. But if I know that I'm sending this child to CCS, their regulations stipulate that you have to wait 6 weeks. And the reason we wait, there's lots of different reasons. The primary reason is that if there is a middle ear pathology, the problem may resolve by the time you do the second screening, and then there's no need to refer to the doctor's office. If the child, we used to over-refer and refer right away, and the child got an appointment with the doctor and is seen by the doctor, the ears are all cleared up, and now they're angry with us because we over-referred. The other reason is that sometimes it's just overwhelming for the child to come in the first time. So if they see me or one of you and you're doing the screening, they may participate, but they may not give you reliable results because they're not sure what's going to happen to them. So in that case, you give them a second chance. And giving them that second chance, the second time they go, oh, I remember this game, this is lots of fun, and so they do a great time the second time around. It's a pass or fail, and I'm using the word fail with you guys, but when you are dealing with the parents, you just say that we need to refer. I don't ever use the word fail in front of a mom and dad, because once you say that, they go, oh, my child failed, oh my God, he's got a hearing loss. And from a screening, we don't know anything. The purpose of a screening is to identify somebody who needs further evaluation. That's all we're doing. Okay, we now talked about the audiogram. Now let's look at the audiometer, because this is another issue of getting reliable results, misuse of the audiometer. Now, I'm going to show you a particular make and model in our demonstration, but do not panic if your audiometer doesn't look like this one. There are a zillion makes and models out there. They all do the same thing. So when I talk about a button that makes the beep, you have a button that makes the beep. So just because it cosmetically doesn't look like your audiometer, it still does the same thing, and you need to go back to your clinic, your Head Start program, and look at the audiometer and see what we're talking about. Okay, now I want you to watch what goes on by opening the audiometer. Most audiometers come in a case. Some have a soft cover, some are enclosed in a box like this is, but no matter what it looks like, you have to go through a process every time you open it. And I want you to watch what happens to the wires and the tangle aspect of the headsets in doing this, because later I'll show you the problems that this creates with the child. So let's start over by opening this particular audiometer. This audiometer, as you open it, the back section enclosed is the earphones. The earphones look like this, and you can see the wires and how tangled everything is. And then we have the electrical cord. And of course, the electrical cord's all wrapped around, so I have to undo this to make sure that I'm not messed up here. So the first thing you need to know about the audiometer, you need to plug it in. Okay, it sounds ridiculous, but sometimes we forget to do that. So let's plug it in. The next thing you need to know about the audiometer is you need to turn it on. This particular model, you have the button that's located right here. It's off. I turn it on. Lights come on, LED readings here, tells me the intensity and the frequencies, and a little light comes on for which ear, so I know that the electricity is being sent to the audiometer. It's working in that respect. The next thing I want to look at on the audiometer are the frequencies. Remember that we looked at the frequencies on the audiogram, the 1,000 and 2,000, not mandated 3,000 and 4,000 frequencies. That's the frequencies that we're going to use for doing the hearing screening. On this particular audiometer, the number is written here. So this number right here tells me it's at 4,000. But the actual dial to change it is on the side of the audiometer. So it's right there. And I change it by turning this. So that's where the frequency selection switch is. But most audiometers, that dial is actually on the face of the audiometer. This particular make and model has it on the side. So I have it at 4,000. And just for curiosity, for you to hear, I'll let you listen to all the frequencies. And I'll hold this up so you can hear it better. This is at 4,000. This is what it's going to sound like. This is at 3,000. I'll drop it down. This is at 2,000. And this is at 1,000. And note how more difficult it gets to hear when it's a lower frequency. Okay? Now, that's one of the reasons why we don't screen at 500, 250. If I turned it to 500 and made the sound, even though I'm close, you probably can't hear it. And I'm purposely holding it the same way I did before. But because it's so low frequency in the acoustics of this room and the noises, you will drown out those sounds. So that's why we only screen at 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000. So I'll put it back up to 4,000 hertz. Okay? Remember, the intensity level that we're going to screen at is around 20 decibels. But in my demonstration, just so you can hear the beep coming from the audiometer, I'm going to change it and turn it to 90 dB. So I have it at 90 decibel on the dial. Okay, and the intensity level is right here, this window. It says 90, and the dial to change that is on the side of the audiometer. Okay, again, most audiometers, the dials are going to be on the face of the audiometer. So this is my loudness, and this is the frequencies. The frequencies is like changing the station on a TV. This is your volume. Make it louder and quieter. That's all it is. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at on the audiometer is the ear selection switch. Which ear do we screen first? Okay, most people will say they screen the right ear, and my response to that is why? And the answer to that is because somebody told you, and that's exactly right. There is no way of determining which ear to really screen, so we choose the right ear. In reality, You're always supposed to start screening at the better ear. But if I don't know anything, I always get in the habit of starting off at the right ear. That's standard, okay? So this particular audiometer, the button right here, tells me right or left. If I press it down, the light goes on by the word right. If I press it down again, it moves to the left ear. So we'll press it to the right ear because I want to start the screening at the right ear. The next thing we're going to look at the audiometer, and this is one of the biggest problems of why we miss kids, why we lose children and get not good results, and we have problems in getting anything done, is the misuse of the interrupter switch or the stimulus switch. It's the button that you press to make the beep. If I look at this audiometer, and this is different than most audiometers, this one actually has two buttons that does the same thing. The stimulus button is either here or here. It allows me to be right-handed or left-handed. I would normally be sitting in front of the audiometer looking at it, and if I'm left-handed or right-handed, I could press either button I want, depending what's more familiar with my positioning. Most audiometers have one stimulus button, and it's usually right in the middle, and you just press that one button. Based on that, everything else is the same. It's the stimulus button. You press it to make the beep. This is one of the biggest problems that we have. This is what you look like when you press the button. Many of you have this 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old. You sit down with them and you press the button and you do this. Listen. This is not a vision test. This is a hearing screening. So that when you press that button, don't move any parts of your body, but watch yourselves. Everybody look at each other at work. Watch your coworkers. When you press the button, you sit there and you do this. Okay? You make movements. That child will be able to see that movement and respond for that movement, not because they heard the beep. So please do not move any parts of your body. Also, when you're dealing with a 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old, they are precious, they are cute, they are adorable, and you want them to pass. So you sit there and you do this. Listen. You just gave it away. No visual expressions, no body movements. Some people tell me because they know that's a problem, they take the child and they turn the chair so the child can't see them. Please do not take a 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old and turn them away from you. They are scared to death. They don't want to be in that room. They're afraid they're going to get a shot. They're afraid something's going to happen to them. And now you've turned them away from you. Now they've completely lost. They are not going to respond to you. They're going to be thinking all the bad things in the world that are going to happen to them. They're going to run out the door. And by having them look at you, you have control over them. You're able to monitor them by watching their facial expression. I want that control. So if I have the child sitting there, I want them positioned so that if I'm sitting here, they're sitting to my side, they can see me. Because of that, I have to be very careful of not moving any parts of my body. So when I press that button, that's all I have to do. I don't have to sit there and go and give it away. And if they're sitting on the side and I don't want them to see me press the button, all I have to do is put my hand here and go like this. There's no way anybody sitting over there can see me press the button, okay? So you can manipulate, adjust yourself. And if it's still a problem, all you have to do is pick up the audiometer and turn it around. You control the environment. You make this as easy as possible for the child. Let them have as much fun and enjoy this as much as possible. Very nice. Perfect job. Now look where he's positioned, how he's sitting. I'll let the child stay where they are, and I just manipulate myself. I block it so he can't watch. Super duper job. You turn it to make it so you are making it harder on yourself in the positioning, but it's for the child. You're there for that kid. Okay, so that's the interrupter switch, and the first thing is when you press the button, make sure you don't move any parts of your body. The second thing is that when you press the button, don't let them watch you press the button. The third thing is that when you press the button, you want to hold it down to a count of 1 Mississippi. So when you press the button, please don't do this. Listen, you probably didn't even hear it. It happened so fast, it was gone. So you want to make sure that when you press the button, you hold it down to 1 Mississippi. And please count to yourself, don't count out loud. Okay? So when you press it, say it to yourself. 1 hippopotamus. I don't care what word you use, but please don't do it this. Okay, half the times you press it and you do it that quickly, and the first words out of your mouth is, did you hear it? Do you remember how to play the game? What are you going to do? And the kid goes, hear what? I know what to do. I know how to play the game. Why are you questioning me? What did I do wrong? you've put a barrier between you and the child. You've already lost the kid. Hold it down to 1 Mississippi and you won't have that problem. Also, don't do this to a poor kid. Listen. Did you hear it? What are you going to do when you hear it? You sit there and you press your button forever and the kid may not respond. And the reason for that is we are all different in how we interpret things. You may have a child that when you say listen and you press the button, they respond immediately to the beep. So they do something like this, listen, and they put the hand down. Some kids may do this, listen, and they keep the hand up until the beep is finished. And then some kids will do this. They wait for the end of the beep. That's how they interpret your instructions. They all did it successfully and correct. So if you hold it for 1 Mississippi, you'll never have that problem. They will always be accurate in their response. Okay, so there's 3 things so far. Don't move your body when you press the button. Don't let them visually watch you press the button. When you hold the button down, hold it down for a count of 1 Mississippi. And the 4th thing that you have to remember is that you have to change your presentation. Change your pattern so that when you sit there, you don't just go listen, beep, listen, beep, listen, beep, listen, beep. How many times does this happen to you? You're screening a child, you have the earphones on, everything's ready to go, and you press the button, beep, and the kid responds. You press another button, beep, the kid responds. You go to the next frequency, beep, the kid responds. You go to switch it to the other ear, and the kid responds. And you say, oh no, wait for the beep, wait for the beep. The problem is the kid was in a pattern. He wasn't listening to the beeps. He was in a rhythm. So you need to always change your presentation. Now, if you notice in my lecture right now, I'm always saying the word listen. I say the word listen to get their attention. We're dealing with 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds. You lose them that quickly. So if I say listen, they come back to me. Okay? So I have them. That doesn't mean I'm going to press the button. Sometimes I'll go listen, beep, I press the button. Sometimes I'll go listen, beep, I press the button really fast. And sometimes I'll go listen, beep, and I press the button late. So I'll have a kid who's raising, or an adult raising hand, and they'll do this. Listen, beep, listen, beep, listen, beep. Okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for. They're not just raising hands or dropping blocks in a bowl. They are waiting for the beep to occur. If you don't do that, you get in a rhythm, you're going to lose a child. You just end up patterning, and they'll end up throwing blocks in, and you never get them finished because they keep throwing blocks in. As soon as you hear the beep, put your block in. Great job. Here comes the baby one. Not a baby one for her. Let's see if I can trick her. Listen. Good, waiting. That's exactly what I want to see, waiting for that beep. So those are the 4 things with the interrupter switch. 1, don't move any parts of your body. 2, don't let them watch you press the button. 3, hold it down for a count of 1 Mississippi, but don't say it out loud. And 4, make sure you change your presentation, change your pattern. Okay, that is the interrupter switch. And remember, it's called interrupter switch or stimulus switch. And on this one, there are 2 of them. This does not designate which ear you're screening. This just tells me that it's going to be created. This, remember this button down here says right and left. So this says which ear it's going to. This button just allows me to be right-handed, left-handed. It's just a convenience button. This particular audiometer has a couple of extra buttons on it that I want to bring your attention to. And if your audiometer has that, I want you to be aware that they have it. The one button is very good to have, and there's one that's not so good to have. So let me first show you the one that I really prefer to use if you have this on your audiometer. This has what's called a pulse tone. I press this little window right there, the light comes on and it says it's pulsating. So what happens is that when I turn and I press the button, actually, it pulsates. It makes beep, 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 beep noises. If your audiometer has that button, always use it. It is easier to hear a sound that pulsates than a sound that is continuous. So if your audiometer has that pulsating button, always use it. For kids or adults, it's for your advantage. This other button that this one has, it's what's called a frequency modulated tone, and it sounds like this. It warbles. This is not a pure tone. It's not a pure frequency. As we say 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000, even though this is set to 4,000, when I fluctuate it, it's not a pure tone. So you're not doing a real screening anymore. So you want to make sure that you are not using the frequency modulated button. So make sure the light's off on that, but always use the pulse button. That works the best. So here are all the components of the audiometer that you need to know. You need to go back to your office. You need to practice using the audiometer. I'm telling you, if you're only doing one screening a day or something like that, and every time you sit down, you have to get coordinated with the audiometer and try to remember which buttons are doing what, then it's your fault. You need to be able to sit down and go, okay, this is my stimulus, change the frequency, change the intensity. You need to not take any time away from the child by having you to figure out your audiometer. This should be second nature to you. You need to know your audiometer, how to use the components of the audiometer so it goes nice and fast. Okay, now let's look at the earphones on the audiometer, headsets, earphones, whichever you like to call them. I wish I had a video recording of all of you putting earphones on a child, because this is what you look like when you put headsets on. You sit there, you hold them, and you put them on, and you come up to the child, and you're going. Okay. You are this close to the child's face, and your face is going. The kid's sitting there going, oh my gosh, you're going to hurt me. If it's hurting you to put them on, what's it going to do to me? So when you put earphones on, you want to make sure that you're smiling. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you're smiling. The other aspect is you always need to be talking. There shouldn't be any quiet time when you put the earphones on. So when you're coming up to them and not saying a word, they're scared of what's happening to them. So you want to make sure that while you're putting them on, you're saying, we're going to play a game. It sounds like this. Or listen, oh, I love the way you put these on. Very good job. Always talk, even if you don't make any sense. I don't care what it is, but your intonation, your voice quality demonstrates to them that this is a lot of fun and they're going to enjoy it. So instead of making this crunched up face, you need to be going, oh, I like the way you put these on. What a big girl, what a big boy you are. That's how you put the earphones on. Wow, what a pretty pilot you are. I love the way you put those on. Very nice job. Also, while you're putting them on, you need to hold them correctly. Please do not hold them, and I'm going to take my glasses off only for demonstration. Please don't hold them like this. If you hold them like this and you try to put them on, you end up doing this to the child. Okay. You're squishing their face, you're touching them, they don't want to wear the earphones. So that you want to make sure you hold them correctly. Also, don't hold them like this. If you hold them like this and you try to put them on, you're on the plastic and metal and they end up slipping out of your hand. And again, don't hold them like this, because once you put them on, now what are you going to do with your hands? Your hands are stuck in the earphones. So you want to make sure that if you put them on correctly, you won't have any of those problems. And how to do that? You need to make sure that your fingertips are slightly over the cushions. Okay, now let's backtrack a little. You have to remember that I said the red earphone goes over the right, I maybe didn't say that, but the red earphone represents right. So you have the red tab. That red tab goes over the right ear. Just remember RR, red, right, okay? If you remember that, there's only one other ear that this can go over. And if there's more than one other ear, then you have a problem and you need to refer immediately, do not scream. So you want to make sure that you hold the cushions slightly, with your fingertips slightly over the cushions, something just like that. So you have your 4 fingers in front of the bar away from you, like this, and your thumb towards you. So it looks like this. You have to remember that the red earphone is going over their right ear, which means that the red earphone has to be in your left hand. I know you're going to have a problem with this. You're going to sit there and go, okay, right, left. But when you start practicing and get doing this enough, you'll remember the red earphone goes in your left hand. Fingertips are slightly over the cushions, and you come up to the child just like that. What happens, and I'll do it on myself, is that I will hold the earphones correctly, just as I was putting them on another person. My fingertips push all the hair out of the way, any obstacles in the way. I can feel exactly where the pin stops. I stop, and then I adjust the headset. Oh, I love the way you put these on. Thank you for turning around so I could get this better on you. Thank you. That's all I have to do. I do not have to sit there and go like this. I don't have to do any of those movements. So you make sure when you put the headsets on that you come across with your fingertips, you stop and then adjust. When you want to take them off, so when they're on, now you want to take them off, there's another problem. You try to take them off, you grab the earphones, you have hair. What are you going to do with all this hair? You end up pulling the hair and the kid's going like this and you go, oh, 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 I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pull the hair out. An easy way to get the earphones off is by taking your thumbs, putting your thumbs directly behind the bar, separate them, and take them off. Super duper job. You are sensational. Terrific. This way you don't have to knock glasses off, you don't have to pull hair. So again, you hold them, to be the child's head, you put your thumbs right there, you separate them and take them off. That's all you have to do to remove the earphones. If you grab them, then you're grabbing hair and you're going to have problems. Put your thumbs and take them off. Okay, another aspect about the audiometer that's really crucial is the calibration of the equipment. An audiometer needs to be calibrated annually. I'll talk more in detail about that, but while we're on the audiometer here, there's a sticker somewhere on your audiometer and you need to go back to your office and check this out. The sticker will tell you that it meets ANSI standards, that's the American National Standards Institute, when it was calibrated and when it's next due. And you cannot use an audiometer unless it has this calibration sticker on it and that it's within that year. If you find out that your facility's audiometer hasn't been calibrated in more than a year, it's 2 years old, then stop screening. Your results are inaccurate, you have a liability problem, it's not, CHDP is not going to pay for the services. You need to make sure your audiometer is calibrated. On this particular audiometer, there's a sticker right here that tells me it was calibrated in July of 2006, so it was just calibrated for us, filming of this time, and it's not due until July of 07. This audiometer, we're talking about audiometers earlier. I'll just give you an idea that the different type of audiometers, a different make and model here. As I said earlier, the frequency selection switch and the intensity selection switch is on the face of this particular audiometer versus the one that's on the sides on this one. The interrupter switch on this one is this little silver button that you just press to make the beeps. And then we have right and left here, and we have the pulse tone. So even though cosmetically this is different completely than this audiometer, it has the exact same function. And now on the back side of this has my calibration sticker that tells me when it's calibrated and when it's due. So you need to go back to your facility, check all the audiometers that you have, and make sure they meet the calibration standards. It's essential. Okay, now let's look at the actual screening, getting the environment ready, bringing kids in, getting everything the way it's supposed to be for doing the screening. There are 4 things that you need to have for a successful screening. The first is a qualified person. You coming to this workshop, meeting all the requirements, receiving a certificate, puts you in that position of being a qualified person. The second thing we need to have, and I briefly talked about the calibration, is a calibrated audiometer. I can't emphasize enough with you people that you need to have an audiometer that meets ANSI standards. Otherwise, your screening is meaningless. I mean, it's an essential part of any program, and you got to make sure that your audiometer is calibrated. And we looked at the stickers earlier. The third thing you need to have is an audiometer that's not broken. You need to do a biological calibration of the equipment. What you need to do is put the earphones on, you need to listen to the frequencies, just as I showed you earlier, put the earphones on, press the button, listen to the frequencies, wiggle the wires, listen to make sure that's pure tones, it doesn't break up, there's no static, unwanted sounds. If you hear anything that's abnormal while you're playing with your audiometer and listening, then you know that there's something wrong and don't screen. You need to have this sent out for service. Now we can actually start thinking about making an environment conducive for the children. If you think about what a Head Start environment looks like, the rooms look like, they're set up for kids. They have Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, E.T., Yoda, who happens to be popular at the time, posters, fun things for the kids, so as soon as they enter the school, they're not afraid, they're more entertained, and they like their environment. Okay, so I have my audiometer. My audiometer is set right here. We have blocks. Now, we never talked about this earlier, but when we do this screening with children who are 3 to about 6 years of age, we're going to be using a procedure called play audiometry. Okay, no hands. We don't ask them to play with hands. What we're going to do is going to give them a block, and they're going to put the block in the basket. It's a very easy task. Everybody has blocks at home. They're familiar with this procedure. There's not a lot of education that goes in to train them into doing this procedure. Now, one thing I do want to recommend is that if you notice, all my blocks are all the same color, size, shape, and form. That's what you want. Please do not go out and get multicolored blocks. If you have something like this that you're using as blocks, there's too much activity on these blocks. They're multicolored, they have dots here. So if I give a child a block, they end up going, and you can't get anything done. You're sitting there trying to get the procedure, and they're trying to count every dot. And you're spending so much time wasted on a bad block. Also, if I give the child like a blue block, they go, I want the yellow one. No, I want the orange one. No, I want the green one. He can't make up his mind. So do not give them the choice. So we get rid of those blocks, and now we have some great blocks. All the same color, size, shape, and form. There's no decision making here. And then we have a basket. Now you can use baskets such as we have here. You can use Cool Whip bowls, Tupperware, Rubbermaid, I don't care. Don't use coffee cans. Don't use metal things that make a loud noise. Because when I drop my block, you can hardly hear it fall into the basket. But if it's a coffee can, it hits, and it hits loud. Now the kids love that. So when they throw the block in, they literally throw it, it bounces out of the coffee can, and you've lost control over this kid. So you want something that will absorb sound, and this is a perfect basket for this procedure. So we have our blocks. Note my positioning here. The child is going to be sitting here facing this direction. Normally, I will be sitting in front of the audiometer facing this direction, okay? So that my child is to the right of me. Now, I am right-handed. Because of that, I want the child on my right side. I do not position the child here because that's my non-dominant hand, and I won't be able to interact with that child with my non-dominant hand. If I picked up a block, I may drop it. I may poke him in the eye. When I try to manipulate the audiometer, this hand doesn't work. This hand works really well. So if I'm sitting here, I can now give the child the block, press my buttons, and everything's coordinated. So I want to make sure, left-handed, right-handed, you put the child on your dominant side, okay? And it's to the side of you, not turned around away from you, but on the side looking this direction. Because if I'm doing this and the kid's facing this direction and I think he can see me press the button, all I would have to do is manipulate the audiometer and turn it to the side if I thought that was a problem. Or I can cover it by putting my hand up and blocking their view. There's a lot of things that I can do so that child won't watch me press the button. So here's my environment to get ready to do the screening. Okay, now I want to set up my environment. And so I have my square table, and if you note that we have actually 2 chairs here. I have 2 chairs, and I have my basket, and I have my blocks. When I'm working in a Head Start preschool type of environment, I like to have the ability to do more than one child at a time. So what I'll do is I have 2 kids come in, sit down in these chairs, and then I'll have 2 chairs away from the table for 2 kids to watch. This way I train 2 at a time, I screen 1 at a time. When they're finished, they get up to leave. The other 2 have watched, they sit down and play the game. And since they've had the opportunity to watch, that makes my job a little bit easier to train them. Now in a doctor's office, you typically don't have the ability to do more than 1 child at a time. But what I would suggest though, if many of these kids come in with siblings, use the siblings. You don't need to be doing this with 1 at a time. Use the siblings, and half the times they're creating noise, they're getting in the way, you're telling them to be quiet or having the parents discipline them. But if you give them a block and let them participate, help giving the child you're screening a block, this makes things go faster. So you can use more than 1 child at a time and in a doctor's office. Okay? Now, before we even get the child, let's make sure that the audiometer is set up. Okay? What frequency are we going to start the screening at? I didn't bring this up to you, but remember we're going to do 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000 for our screening. When I am dealing with children, and I use that, if I say 13, to me that's a teenager and adult ear. So anybody who's less than 13, 12 and under, 12 to 3 years of age, when I'm screening them, I always start off at 4,000 hertz first. That's that high frequency, the high pitch. For young children, I always start off at 4,000 and go 4, 3, 2, 1. When I switch it to the other ear, I stay at 1, only for time, because if I go back to the 4, that's another movement, it takes longer. But I already know that they know what the sounds sound like because I've screened them in this ear. So when I go to this ear, they're familiar with the procedure and the sounds. So I stay at 1 and then go 1, 2, 3, and 4. Everybody see how that works? It's my point of view. It's not written in any law, but I've found by doing over 25 years of screening kids and adults, it's made my life easier for starting kids at the high frequency and going 4, 3, 2, 1, switching ears 1, 2, 3, 4. So before the kids come in, I'm going to make sure that I have it at 4,000. And so I turn it, it's at 4,000. Which ear are we going to screen at first? I remember last time we talked about this. We always start off the right ear, unless you know one ear is better than the other. If you don't know that, always start off with the right ear. So I'll make sure that my little button here is pressed to the right ear, just as I just did. It's now at the right ear. Now, earlier, we also said that the screening level is at 25 dB. That is very true, or 20 to 25 dB. That is very true. But before we actually put earphones on the child, I want them to hear the beep with the earphones off. So with that, I'll turn it to 90 dB on the dial. So on most audiometers, you can't go higher than 90. So I turn it to 90 decibels, and that's only because when I press the button, you'll be able to hear it when I press the button. Okay, that's why I'm doing it at 90 dB. Otherwise, the screening is at 20 or 25 decibels. All right, so now I'm ready. Okay, so let's now talk about bringing the children into the environment to do the screening. When you go get the child, you want to make sure you have physical contact with the child. Please don't go out into the waiting room and say, Johnny, come with me. We're going to play a game. Come on, Johnny. Johnny, come here. Johnny, get over here. Johnny, get over here. Johnny, come here. They won't come. They're scared of you. You're a stranger. They're now going to be attached to mom and dad, and you're going to have very big difficulty in getting them to follow you. What you want is physical contact. You want to go in and have hands-on with the child so that when you bring the child in, you control that. You may get a child who's really scared, and they may look like this when they walk with you, but they'll walk with you rather than trying to guide them in by just verbal commands. If a child refuses completely, then I'll have a parent come in. I prefer not having a parent come into the room with us, or a teacher when I'm in a Head Start program, because they're a problem in themselves. Children will depend on the parents. Parents will have visual contact with the child. It will make it disruptive. If I have a child sitting over here and I have a parent standing over here while I'm sitting here, the parent's staring at their child, and if the child doesn't respond correctly, the parents are giving angry faces, or you better do it right, or I'm getting mad at you. And now the child sees that, and the child starts to get disappointed and scared. Or I got a child who looks scared and is about to cry, and they look at mom and dad go, and the kid sees that, and they start crying, and we haven't done anything, and everybody's crying. So I'd rather have no parent, rather have you do the transition of bringing the child into the room. If you have to bring a parent or teacher in, make sure you manipulate them behind the child. So if the child's sitting at the end of the table, the parent's behind the child. Now the child has the feeling and trust that the parent's in the room, but there's no visual contact with the parent, and they can't disrupt with the actual screening. Okay, so here I am. I go grab the child, I bring them to the table, escort them, and sit them down. Now let me quickly go through this. I'll go through all my ABCs on how to do the screening, and then we'll number it, and you'll see it on a kind of a chart, flow chart, on how we actually do the screening. If there's anything you learn how to do in this workshop, learn how to say, wow. Because you watch what happens when you're doing kids. When you sit there and you just press the button and straight face, they're sitting there and bored. But as soon as I say, listen, wow, they sit there and they go, and they get giddy. They start laughing. They think it's fun immediately. So I always want to make sure that I always start off with my wow. So it's real important, even if you learn anything out of this workshop, learn how to say wow when you press the button. So I always point to my ear, I press the button, I hold it down for a few seconds, I go, wow. Listen again, wow, pretty neat. I don't do this. Listen, did you hear it? Because as soon as you ask the question, the kid's going to go, and now you've lost them. They're not going to play, they don't want to play, they don't want to participate. You've lost because of asking a question. If you ever catch yourself asking a question during the procedure, you've done something wrong. It's your fault, not the kid. The kid will follow directions and play the game correctly. If you have to ask a question about what's going on, that means you did something wrong in your presentation. So make sure all you do is point to the ear, say listen, wow. Listen again. Wow, pretty neat. That's all you do. We're going to play a game, and it sounds just like this. Listen. Wow. Listen again. Wow, pretty neat. So first thing I do is introduce the beep. The next thing I want to do is I want to give the child a block. So I take a block and I give it to the child. Make sure you hand the block to the child each time. Do not let the child gather the blocks themselves, because what happens is now they control you. They monitor what they want to do. They start stacking the blocks. They start playing with the blocks. If you see a child who starts to grab blocks, I literally will put the blocks on the other side of the audiometer out of their reach. And note, the basket is the closest thing to them, then the blocks, and then me. I have control of it by handing them the block. So you hand it to them. If you don't put it close enough, they won't reach for it, they won't go for them, they'll just back away. If you go closer to them, what happens is that if you have a child, when you bring it, or an adult, when you get it close enough, their first reaction is to grab them. So don't hesitate and stop too far away from them. Also, some people put the block and they put it on the table and they say, there's your block. And the kid sits there and goes, and you say, no, there's your block, take your block. Now you've lost them. You want to make sure you hand them the block. It's very important. We're going to talk about a little bit later on children who refused with the blocks, and I'll show you all the little techniques that you can get them to take the block. But right off the bat, you want to make sure you give them a block and make sure they understand it's their block, it's for them. So don't be hesitant and come too far away from them, and don't put the block on the table so that they won't pick it up. So you want to make sure you hand them a block. The child has a block, I have a block, and I say to the child, every time you hear that little beep, I want you to take your block and put it right in here, okay? Did anybody hear a beep? Okay. Probably not. Hopefully you didn't hear a beep. If you did, we'd have a problem. Well, bringing the point is that sometimes in your demonstration, you'll say to the child, when you hear the beep, put your block in the basket. Well, there's no beep. You just put it in. Even verbally, you told the child, only put the block in when there's a beep. You just demonstrated to them to put it in any time. So you have to be extremely careful on your instructions, so that if you say to the child, when you hear the beep, put your block in the basket, there is no beep. So that block does not go in the basket yet. You have to wait for a beep, okay? That's really important that you understand that. So you hear the beep, put your block in the basket. Also, note my position of how I'm holding the block. I'm letting them see this block. I'm not going, when you hear the beep, put your block in the basket. Okay, did you see anything? You didn't see it. You didn't see a block. You don't see where I'm supposed to put the block in. You need to be very descriptive, and you need to be visual while you're doing it. So when you hear the beep, put your block in the basket. And note the arch that I do this, how I'm doing this. When a kid's sitting there, they literally will look at my hand as I'm putting in the block, and they'll do this. Okay? They're following me. I don't care. I do this workshop everywhere in California. I have Hmong, Vietnamese. I have lots of different languages. I have no ability to communicate with them except for visually. I don't know any other language except for English, and I have a hard time with English. So that I need to be visual when I'm doing this. So make sure that when you say, when you hear the beep, put your block in the basket. Okay? Now, they have a block, I have a block. Just because I verbally told them and showed them what to do, I don't predict that they're going to do this correctly the first time. So what I want to make sure to do is I say listen, and again, listening is just a cue to get them ready for the beep. It doesn't mean I'm going to make the beep. So I say listen, I press the button, there's the beep. Now I make my movement, I drop my block in. Some kids, when they see that, they immediately put their block in. Some kids, if I do this, they do this. They follow me perfectly, okay? Some kids will sit there and do this on you. When you hear the beep, put your block in the basket. I put mine in, and the kid does this, okay? Not moving. I literally will say, yes, that's right, that's it, put it in. Yep, you're doing it right, perfect, yes, oh, good, go, perfect. That's how you play the game. Some kids, when I press the button, they just hold it. That kid, I will actually pick up the basket and say, put it in, put it in, put it in. Good, that's how you play the game. Some kids, even if I put the basket over to them, they don't put it in. So that kid, I have literally take their hand and go, good job. You'll know right away which child you need to do that. There are some kids that walk in and they're so timid and shy, you don't want to be grabbing right off the bat. So that kid, I just say, here, put it in, put it in. Good job. But then there's a kid that looks like he's going to be a football player in 10 years. I mean, he's off the wall, he's a big bruiser. That's the kid I take the hand, put it in, and drop the block in the basket. Most important thing here is that I introduce the beep. I go first. I am the role model. You need to go first. So you put the block in, they follow. You cannot go to the next step until they follow that direction. So we can't move on until they've done that. Sometimes I have to do it twice, but most of the time they will catch on immediately. So I give them a block, beep, I drop mine in, they drop theirs. Very good job. I like the way you're playing the game. You're terrific. Here's a block for you and one for me. Every time you hear that little beep, I want you to take your block and put it right in here. Listen. Great job. Okay, another thing that I want to bring to your attention is that if the response is correct, meaning beep, and they drop their block in the basket, that block stays in the basket. Don't remove it. Don't give them that, take that block out and give them back that block. There are a whole bunch of blocks on the table. Use those up because all good responses stay in the basket. And the reason for that is that if they put a block in the basket and there was no beep, then I take the block out and I say, I tricked you, wait for the beep, and I give them that block back. So now they understand the rules, that only when they hear the beep, it goes in the basket. If they just can't throw blocks in. In fact, there's sometimes I spend 3 minutes with one child just removing blocks. I'll say, wait for the beep, and they drop it in. You have to wait for the beep, beep, very good. They finally catch on, then we can move on, okay? But it's essential that we do it that way, that you just don't go fast and they don't catch on to the procedure. So here we are, I'm backtracking. The first thing we did was introduce the beep. We're gonna play a game that sounds like this. Listen, beep, wow. Listen again, beep, wow, pretty neat. I give the child a block, I get a block. Every time you hear the beep, I want you to take your block and put it in the basket. Listen, beep, I put mine in first. I am the role model, they follow. Next step, I give them a block, I get a block. Let's see how fast you can do it. As soon as you hear it, you put it in real fast. Get ready, listen. I don't care what language they have, my intonation of my voice, my patterning of my voice, I get them excited. They really want to do this fast just because of how I sound. This step, you actually want them to win, okay? You want them to go first, okay? If you've ever played with a 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old and you played, let's run to the wall. Let's see who can race to the wall the fastest. And you didn't let the child win, it's devastating. They'll scream, they'll cry, you didn't let me win, I didn't win. You let them win. This is the same thing we're doing here. I want them to win. So I give them a block, I get a block, and I don't tell them that I'm going to let them win. I say, let's see how fast you can do it. As soon as you hear it, you put it in real fast. Get ready, listen. I press the beep, 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 beep. There it is. I start to move mine in. They see that. They drop their block in. I drop mine after, and I go, you won. You're so fast at this game. Watch the reaction you get from the kids. They sit there and go, I beat that guy. I'm really fast. You've got them. Remember earlier this morning I talked about self-esteem, one of the most important things that you possess with the hearing, self-esteem to be successful. Well, here we are now, they're successful. They are winning, they're beating me. They feel real proud and now they can't stop playing. They want to really play this game. So after I've let them win, and I can't tell you this is not an easy step because a lot of you are very competitive and you're going to sit there with this child and say, let's see how fast you can do it. As soon as you hear it, put it in real fast. Listen, beep. And you put it in way too fast. Slow down, let them win, okay? I give them a block, the child a block, I get a block, and I say to them this time, as soon as you hear it, you put it in. The next step, they do it on their own. You don't play, okay? Please don't tell that to the child. Don't give them a block and say, okay, this time you do it all by yourself, I don't play, because the kid's gonna go, well, I don't wanna play either. If you're not playing anymore, I don't wanna play. Why aren't you playing? All you have to do is just give the child the block and say, listen. They've already been conditioned to know listen means get ready, here comes the beep. So I say listen, they have a block, beep, beep, beep. They drop their block in, we're ready to put earphones on. This kid is conditioned. This procedure has taken me 10 minutes to demonstrate, but in reality, it takes 30 seconds to do. And it sounds just like this, listen. Wow, listen again. Wow, pretty neat. This is how you play. Here's a block for you, and one for me. Every time you hear that little beep, put your block in the basket. Listen, wait for the beep. Perfect. I like the way you did that. Block for you, block for you. Let's see how fast you can do it. When you hear it, put it fast. You two won. You're so fast at this game. Very nice job. Block for you, block for you. When you hear it, put it in. Perfect listening. I introduce the beep, I give the child a block, I go first, I give the child a block, I let them win, I give the child a block, they do it on their own. Okay? Now, note that I'm just about out of blocks here. If you run out of blocks, all you have to do is dump them all out and start over again. Don't take individual blocks out each time, just dump them out, start over again. Okay, so now I'm actually ready to put the earphones on. The first thing you need to do is give the child the block. I can't tell you how important this is. Giving a child a block does several things. One, it tells the child they're still playing the game. Two, it occupies them, okay? So that when you get ready to put the earphones on, they have this object in their hand. They don't literally drop the block and protect themselves. They have their block in their hand and they do this and they can't battle you trying to get the earphones off. So this is a safety zone for you. So give them the block immediately, gives them the chance to be occupied. Next thing you need to do is you turn it down to 50 dB. Now, where does 50 come from? Remember, 90 was because I wanted loud enough for them to hear it without earphones. Now I'm going to put earphones on, but before I go down to the 20 dB screening level, I want them to hear it through the earphones loud enough for them to hear it comfortably. So I turn it to 50 dB. Now, if I'm screening an adult, a 21-year-old, an 80-year-old, I always start off at 50 dB first, always, just to get them associated with the beep, earphones, everything's ready to go. So the first thing you do is give the child a block, then I turn it down to 50, then I go get the earphones. And remember all the procedures that we talked about earlier about putting earphones on? I have the red earphone in my left hand, I hold the fingertips slightly over the cushions, and I start going for the child, okay? I get where I want, I adjust, now the kid has got the earphones on, and it's at 50 dB. I say, listen, I press the button. Now, because it's at 50 dB, you will not be able to hear any beep whatsoever this time. But I press it, and I don't know if you can notice, it's really hard, but there's a little red light that blinks on the face of the audiometer, and that's telling me that the beep is there. And it's pulsating, because it's pulsating when it does that. So what I do is, everything's ready to go. I say, listen. I press the button. The kid hears it, they respond by dropping their block in. Immediately after they drop their block in, before I touch anything on the audiometer, I give them a new block. I typically always hold an extra block in my hand because I want this to go fast. I don't want this child to change their mind. I want to play this game and be out. So I give them a new block. I now turn it down to 20 decibels on the dial. So we have it at 20 dB, 4,000 right ear. Now we're ready for the screening. This is it. This is what counts. Everything else was conditioning. Everything else is getting ready for the actual part of the screening, which is now. So the child has their own block. I have it at 20 dB. I say, here comes a baby beep. Listen. Now, I want you to get into the habit of being consistent of what you say and how you do things. I call my little noise a beep. I don't care what you guys call it. You want to call it a birdie, you want to call it a noise, you want to call it a sound, you want to call it a beep, whatever you want to do, stay with one word, okay? Don't sit there and say, okay, get ready for that noise, listen for the sound, here comes that birdie, because the kid's going, which one do I listen to? So be consistent and say one word. Now when I come down to 20 dB, I say, here comes a baby beep. So I've always been calling it a beep. Now I say, here comes a baby beep. Now I visually do that as tiny, small, okay? And I don't sit there and say, here comes a tiny little baby beep. That's way too much language. It's way too much information. All I do, here comes a baby beep, and I use my fingers to indicate small. Because at 50 is the loudness of normal conversation. So if you're 3 feet with somebody and you're having a conversation with them, right now my voice is approximately 40 to 50 dB. So it's comfortably loud, but now you're going to go to a tiny sound. So I give them a block, I turn it down to 20 dB, I say, here comes a baby beep. Now it's also very important that they can't watch you, so I make sure I block my hand before I press the button. I say listen, I pause, I press the button. If they hear it, they drop their block in. I give them a new block. I go to 3,000, so I change this to 3,000. They have a block. I say listen, I pause, I press the button, they respond. I go to 2,000, I go to 1,000, then I switch ears, go to the left ear, and I do 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, okay? That's the screening. The screening will take you 30 seconds to do. The conditioning will take you 2.5 minutes to do. But if you have a child who's conditioned properly, they will run through the screening, have the greatest time, be very successful, win the game, and can't wait to play again. Okay, we're going to play a game, Emily, and it sounds like this. Listen. Wow, listen again. Pretty neat. This is how we play. Here's a block for you. Here's your block, and a block for me. When you hear that beep, then you put your block in here. Okay, listen. That's the game. Here's a block for you. Let's see how fast you can do it. When you hear it, put it in. You are so fast, you won. Here's a block for you. Listen. That's the game. Here's your block. Perfect listening. Now we're going to play like a pilot. You are so pretty with these on. Thank you. When you hear that beep, you put it in. That's the game. Here comes a little baby one now. Let's see if I can trick you. Oh, I can't trick you. You're too smart for me. Here's your block. Listen. Oh, wait for the beep. That was close. I pressed the button, so I have to let her accept it. But I'm not sure she actually heard it. There you go. Now that one's perfect. I'm going to trick you this time. Oh, I can't trick you. You are so smart. Very nice listening. Sensational. We're going to trick you this time. Let's see if I can. Baby one. Oh, you're so good at this game. Perfect job. We're almost finished. You are finished now. You were sensational. Thank you, Emily, for playing our game. I have more kids refusing to leave than I do have kids refusing to play the game. Okay? So that's your ABCs while you have a cooperative child with normal hearing. Okay, let's recap all this. We just finished talking about the normal hearing child and how easy that procedure went. I'm going to jot it down here for you. And so that when you're looking at this now, we have on the syllabus, if you go to your syllabus that shows the flow chart, box A says introduce the beep. So if you look at that, all we did was we're going to play a game. It sounds like this. beep, we make the beep. B says give the child a block, you get a block, you go first. When you hear the beep, put your block in, beep, you go first, the child follows. C, you give the child a block, you get a block, you let the child win. I can't tell you how important that is. D, you give the child the block, you don't get a block, the child does it on their own, beep, the child puts it in. The next step is you give the child a block, you turn it down to 50 dB on the dial, you put the headsets on. You do this once, and then the child responds, you go to the next step in the syllabus, it'd be the next page, and you follow the steps at 4,000, 20 dB, and go 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a normal hearing child that's cooperative. Now let's talk about a child who's cooperative that actually has a hearing problem that will demonstrate a problem. When is the first time you think you will notice if a child has a hearing problem? Okay? In actual view of all this, you may notice a child having a hearing loss in your interview, in your case history. In fact, we never talk about this, but in theory, you should always do a case history. There's something in the case history that may bring to your attention that they're at risk for a hearing loss. The child may be a premature child, less than 1,500 grams. And if we go back into the syllabus and look at that, it shows you all the at-risk factors. So that you may get an indication that there's a hearing loss right off the bat by doing case history. The next thing you do is you want to observe the child, listen to the parents. Observation allows you. If I have a child who's 1 year of age, that child should give me one-word sentences. So the child will look at mom and go up, up, which just means to mom, pick me up. If I have a 2-year-old, the 2-year says me up. A 3-year-old says pick me up. A 4-year-old says pick me up now. If I have a 4-year-old that's in and they're just giving me up, up, or they're using words that I'm supposed to understand, it's English, and I can't make it out, I write that information down. That's my behavioral observation of that child that shows me that the speech is not the way it should be for his age or her age. And I want to jot that down because that's an indicator to me that there may be something else going on, there may be a hearing problem. So if I have a child that walks in and my case history is normal and my behavioral observation is normal, the next time I'm going to notice a hearing loss is probably when I get to turning it down to 50 dB earphones on. Because if I'm doing it with the earphones off and I'm making it 90 dB, that child could have deafness in one ear and still pick up the game. That child could have a mild hearing loss and still play the game. So the only time that I'm going to really know there's a problem is when I isolate their ears and put the earphones on. So everybody should understand this. When you have a child that comes in, your first reaction is to do case history, your second is to behavioral observation, and your third is to actually do the screening. And if you get your A, B, C, D done, it's when you turn it down and put the earphones on that this is the first time that you may have a hearing problem. So here we are. Everything's great, the kid's cooperative, we're having a great time. I put the earphones on. I am now at 50 dB at 4,000 hertz at the right ear. I press the button, I say listen, I press the button, beep, and there's no response. Uh-oh, what does that mean to me? Hey, I just played the game, everything seemed to be okay, and now I put earphones on, beep, and there's nothing happening. Well, it means 1, the child can't hear it. It means 2, I lost the child. The child's daydreaming. Somebody walked into the room. Somebody made noise. A siren's outside. The phone's ringing. I lost the child. Or 3, even though I thought I trained the child successfully to this point, he really didn't catch on to the game. And so when I put the earphones on, he doesn't know what to do. I don't know what's the answer to my question. I don't know which one of these 3 answers is correct. So if I have the earphones on, I'm at 50 dB right ear and I do not get a response, I immediately switch ears. Remember earlier we told you always start off in the right ear. What happens if the kid's profoundly deaf in the right ear? No one knows. He's a 3-year-old, never picked it up. So here we are with this child not responding at 50 dB, right ear, switch ears. Don't hesitate, don't start asking questions of the child. Immediately go to the audiometer and press that button to the opposite ear. So now I'm at the left ear at 50 dB. Okay, I say listen, I press the button, and when I press the button this time, he drops the block in the bowl. What does that tell you about the right ear? Well, it tells you he didn't hear it in the right ear or he wasn't paying attention. It does tell you he knows how to play the game because he just did it for you. So now I've eliminated one of the two possible answers for the right ear. Either he doesn't hear it or he wasn't paying attention. Okay, but now that I'm in the left ear and I got a response, and a correct, accurate response, I stay in the left ear. So here I am at now 4,000 left ear. I press the button at 4,000, beep, the kid responds. 3,000, beep, the kid responds. 2,000, beep, the kid responds. 1,000, beep, the kid responds. Now I go back to the right ear. When I go back to the right ear, look where I'm at. I'm not at 4,000 when we had the problem when we first started. I'm now at 1,000. So if he had a high frequency loss, the chances are at 1,000, if it's a loss, he will hear it. So now I'm going to be starting at an easier frequency for this child to understand the procedure. So everything we do today in this actual procedure covers you and allows you to get accurate screening so you're not sitting there scratching your head. Why isn't he doing this? What am I doing wrong? You're fully knowledgeable of where you are in the screening. You have it done correctly. So now we switch it back to the right ear at 1,000. So I go 1,000, beep, and the kid responds. Okay, go to 2,000. 2,000, beep, the kid responds. 3,000, beep, the kid responds. 4,000, beep, the kid responds. What happened when we first started? What happened was he wasn't paying attention. You got to remember, you're dealing with 3, 4, 5-year-olds. They're gone that quickly. They're daydreaming. They're in another world immediately. So for some reason, I lost that child. I got him back when I switched it to the left ear, and now he's great. So now my results are going to be pass in all ears, and he's finished. But now let's say I go to the left ear, he passes. I go back to the right ear. At 1,000, he passes. 2,000, he passes. 3,000, he passes. But 4,000, there's no response. What does that mean now? Okay, that probably means I have a hearing problem. Think about it. You've got his attention. He's proven to you that he knows how to play the game. So you've given him 2 chances at the same frequency, and he still doesn't respond. The only reason is because he cannot hear it. So pat yourself on the back. You did a great job. You were able to identify a hearing problem from a cooperative child without getting lost in the procedure. So everybody see that now. So if you have at 50 dB, when the headsets go on for the first time, you press the button and there's no response, you immediately go to the other ear. Go through the ABCs, switch ears, go back up. If the kid passes, no problem. If the kid does not pass, then you mark that down on the audiogram and you say thank you, and you rescreen 2 to 6 weeks later. That's simple. Okay, let's backtrack. Now let's go to 50 dB. We put the earphones on. We're at 50 dB right ear. I press the button, beep, no response. It's either he doesn't hear it, he doesn't know how to play the game, or he's not paying attention. So the routine is to switch ears again. Now we're at the left ear at 50 dB. I press the button, beep, no response. What does that mean? Well, I'll tell you right away that 99.9% of the time, and I'm inventing that percentage, it is because the child doesn't know how to play the game. And not because he has a hearing loss. Because to think of this, if a child does not hear it at 50 dB in the right ear and doesn't hear it at 50 dB in the left ear, they don't have speech and language development. That's the child that says "ui" for cookie. That's the child who says ice cream. When he says ice cream, he says "ie," "ie." He may have consonant vowel sounds, but he will not have the consonant sounds. You would have, through your behavioral observation, would have identified this child before you even put earphones on and said, we have a problem, speech and language. So that if a child, everything seems to be normal in the respect of hearing, and you put the earphones on, and he doesn't hear it at the right ear at 50 dB, and he doesn't hear it at the left ear at 50 dB, most of the time it's because they don't understand the game. So if that happens, you need to take the earphones off, turn it back up to 90, recondition, go through your ABCs again, give them more opportunity. And I'm telling you right now, if that's all you do the first time, that's fine. You don't need to have the completion of the screening. I'd rather have the child finish with success, being happy, and playing the game. So if I spend my 3 minutes or so, and I'm just now still doing with the earphones off, but I'm getting him to play the game, I say, you are great, thank you for playing the game, see you, we'll do it again. because the next time he comes in, he's anxious to play the game, he's ready, he's knowledgeable, and you won't have that difficulty anymore. So everybody understand that? So if you have no response at 50 dB right ear, 50 dB left ear, you take the earphones off and recondition. You try it again if you have the time within the 3 minutes and the kid passes, then you know he just didn't understand the game. If all you do is get the conditioning again, then you wait your time period, and please don't extend it too much longer than 3 minutes. Children have their own little time sequences, and they get bored, and if they stop on you, they finish and they end up going, I don't like this game anymore. When you bring them back, they don't want to play. I want to bring them back hungry. I want to bring them back going, I remember this guy, I remember the blocks, I want to play the game. So I end it before I start seeing that I'm losing the child. It's very important that you do that. Okay, so now you have to that step here when we put the earphones on at 50 dB. Now let's say we put it 50 dB, we press the button beep at 50 dB, and the kid responds. Okay, what does the procedure say? The procedure says go to the back side of that original page, and it says turn it down to 25 dB. So, or 20 dB. Again, I'm saying 20, 25, it's depending on your environment. If it's a lot of noise, air conditioning sounds, copy machines, you may want to do it at 25. If you have a very, very quiet environment, 20 is the best intensity level to be doing the screening. So here you are, you turn it down to 20 dB. So think about this, the kid has the earphones on, you're at 20 dB, you're at the right ear. You're at 4,000 hertz. You press the button, beep, the kid responds, puts the block in. You go to 3,000, beep, the kid responds, puts the block in. You go to 2,000, beep, no response. What does that mean? Well, it means he didn't hear it, he wasn't paying attention, okay? It doesn't say anything to do about not knowing how to play the game, because you've already proven to yourself that he knows how to play the game because he's just done the other frequencies. 4,000, 3,000 were perfect. He understands the rules. Now you're at 2,000 hertz, you press the button, beep, no response. What does that mean? He was not paying attention or he didn't hear it. Okay, here's a new trick, a new procedure that I want to throw out to you. If you get a child who does not respond at 25 dB, you need to go back to the audiometer, change the intensity level to 50 dB. So I'll go back to the audiometer, and now I'm at 20, so I'll go to 50 decibels on the dial. Remember, 50 dB is the loudness of normal conversation, and 50 is loud enough to cross to the other ear. So when I turn it back to 50 dB, and they respond, I'm still not sure they heard it in the ear I'm screening. It may have crossed over to the other ear. I don't care. What I'm trying to do at this point is to verify that they understand the game and they have not been distracted. That's all I'm trying to do when I turn it back up to 50. So here I am, beep, 25 dB, no response. I go up to 50. I go to 50 dB, beep, I get a response. I go back down to 20, I say, here comes the baby one, and I press the button again. Beep, no response. Then I walk over to the audiometer, I write down on the audiometer a little minus in that box, and I say while I'm with that child, oh, I gotta write all this down, you're doing such a great job, I gotta remember who I'm playing the game with, and score it while you're doing that and still talking to the child. Now, they did not respond at 20 dB at 2,000. 1,000, if this looks like a conductive pathology, it should also not respond, the child should not respond at 1,000. Remember, conductive pathologies are worse at the lower frequencies. So 4 and 3 were passed, 2 were failed, or did not respond, now I'm going to go to 1. So when I get to 1, I can almost predict the child's not going to pass, but I don't assume anything. I still do the procedure and mark down what I get, what the results are. So I'm at 1,000 at 20 dB, beep, no response, I go to 50. And when you go to 50, don't hesitate. Sit there and beep, no response at 25, turn it to 50. You need to know your audiometer. Make sure that you can turn the dials, knobs, without having to find where they are on the audiometer and just go right to them and turn them. I turn it back to 50, I get a response, I go back down to 20, no response, I score it. So now I have the right ear is a check at 4,000, a check at 3,000, a minus at 2,000, and a minus at 1,000. When I write down in the comment section on the audiogram, I say, good results, child was reliable, cooperative. Okay, that's all I say. Even though I think it's a conductive pathology, I can't write that down. You cannot diagnose from a screening. Okay, so now we're finished the right ear. So we switch to the left ear. So we're at 25 dB now at the left ear, but I am at 1,000 hertz. Remember, we started at 4, went all the way down. So I'm at the left ear at 1,000. If I get a child at 1,000 at 20 dB, they respond. Great. Go to 2,000, press the button, beep, they respond. I go to 3,000, 3,000, beep, no response. Okay, remember what that means? I lost the child or they didn't hear it. So I go to 50, beep, they respond, they drop their block in. I bring them back down to 20 dB, I press the button, beep, and they do it, okay? So now I think that this child is just possibly was not paying attention at that second. I go to 4,000, I press the button, beep, no response. Go back up to 50, I get a response, I come back down at 20 dB, no response. Now we are actually finished. We're complete our screening. We have the right ear did not respond at 1,000, 2,000, and the left ear did not respond at 4,000. We got one at 1, 2, and 3, but nothing at 4. We are finished, but we're not finished. Because if you look at this, the kid has a block in their hand. You went to 20 dB, you press the button, beep, no response. So you go to 50, beep, the kid puts the block in the bowl. You give them a new block, he's now back down at 20 dB. You press the button, beep, no response. You're finished, but the kid's still holding a block. Never take earphones off a child while they're still holding a block because they think something's wrong. You take the earphones off, what did I do wrong? I still didn't put this one in, something's happened. So what you want to do at this point is go back up to 50, press the button, beep, let them put the block in. They're completely successful. Now take the earphones off. I like the way you play the game. You are terrific. So here's a child who actually did not pass in both ears. When they leave, they're the happiest kids in the world because they played the game, they're successful, and they think everything's great. Oh, perfect job. Listen. You have the game. That's how you play. There you go. Block for you. All right, I love the way you put these on. Thank you for helping me put them on. You look so great. What a guy pilot you are. Listen. There it is. Here's another block. Listen for the beep. There it is. Oh, that counts. That one goes in. There you go. Here's a new one. Here you go. There you go. Baby one now. Wait for the baby one. Go back up to 50. You are so good. Okay, 4,050, perfect. 25, no response. Go to 3. Listen. Go to 50. You see what he's doing? He understands the game perfectly. We go to 2,000. This one, I'm gonna trick him for sure. I can't trick him. Everybody see what we just did at 4,000, 3,000 right ear? Go to 1,000. This one's a hard one. Listen. Oh, now we're actually bored here. So as you hear it, put it fast. Put it fast. Good job. Here you go. Switch ears. That's it. Put it in. Perfect. You're so good at this game. I'm going to trick you this time. I can't trick you. Good job. You got to work fast with him. Listen. You were so good at this game. Thank you so much for playing our game. So now we'll make arrangements for having this kid rescreened 6 weeks if it's a CCS child, and we will rescreen. And so that's what happens when you have a cooperative child that actually has a legitimate hearing loss. Now let's look at the screamers, the ranting and raving, the hard to test children. The first thing you have to do with this population, and you have to say this to yourself, you have to believe it, you have to do it. You have to say that you're going to give 3 minutes of your time to every child. You have to do it because you don't do that now. A child walks into that environment, it could be Head Start, it could be the clinic, and they start screaming, they're on the floor, they're kicking, they're crying, and you sit there and look at the child and go, oh, God, oh, God. Why did I get the cry? Why can't my fellow worker get the cry? Why do I get stuck with these kids all the time? I'm never going to be able to do that, kid. And you're right. Just because of what you said and how you feel, you will never get that child done. In fact, think about what that child's doing when it's looking at you. That child's on the floor crying but staring at you, and your face is going, oh. If I went to my doctor, I walked in and my doctor was going to do an examination, and as soon as I walked in, he looked at me and went, oh. I wouldn't let him touch me. So that child's not going to cooperate. You have to ignore that behavior. Take that child, I don't care if they're on the floor screaming, and start playing the game. There are some times that I can't even use the audiometer to make the beep because they're crying so loud they can't hear it through the earphones. I have to use my voice. This little girl comes walking in first, screaming at the top of her lungs. And I'm not talking about, ah! She's screaming at the top of her lungs. I bring her in, sit her down. She's sitting at the table, screaming at the top of the lungs, and I go through my ABCs. I completely ignore the behavior. I say, we're going to play a game. It sounds like this. And I have to use my voice. And I go, beep, and I do it really loud. I go, wow. Listen again, beep. Wow, pretty neat. I give her a block. She's still crying. She's like this, and she holds the block just like this. And I say, when you hear the beep, put your block in the bowl. And I say, listen. And when I said listen that time, immediately she stopped crying. I went with the audiometer now, beep. I dropped mine in, she dropped hers in, and as soon as she dropped hers in, ah! She started screaming again. I give her another block, I take a block, and I said, let's see how fast you can do it, listen. And as soon as I said listen, she paused, waited for me to press the button. She dropped the block in, I let her win, I gave her another block. Every time she put the block in the basket, she started screaming again. And I'm not talking a little quiet crying. I'm talking screaming, top of the lungs, ear-piercing crying. I gave her a block. I turned it down to 50 dB. I put the earphones on. And every time I said, listen, she paused, waited for me. I changed my pattern. Beep. She dropped the block in. We finished screaming, walks out the door. Thank you for playing the game. And that's how she was through the whole thing. Another little boy comes in, sits down, and I say to him, we're going to play a game. He goes, I don't want to play. Okay, just like that. Okay, so I presented this as a game. He goes, I don't want to play. You know, I said to him, you're right. I am so tired of playing games with all these kids today. We're going to go to work. Here's your block. When you hear the beep, put your block in the bowl. That's how we do this job. So as soon as he did that, I changed it on him. He goes, oh, okay, I don't want to play a game, but I want to do this. Beep, he drops the block in. Beep, drops the block in. Take the headsets off, he was perfect. You have to give them an opportunity to play the game. There isn't a kid in the world who really doesn't want to play the game. They want to play the game, but I have to ignore the behavior. I have to have my smile on. I have to go my ABCs. Allow the child to be who they are. You want them to cooperate and participate the way you want them to set up, but if you have that difficult, hard to test screening child, then you need to adjust to their environment and to their personality. The earlier that we get this done, the better off the child and family is going to be. You know, we say up to 21. That's fine. You know, the older kids are going to be easier, but it's this 3 to 5 or 6 years window that we are missing, and we're doing a disservice to the family and to that child and to yourselves. And please, practice, 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 practice. That's what you have to do. The first 100 kids you do, it's not going to be easy, but once you get this down as a regular routine, it's going to be second nature. You're going to have fun with the children, and it's going to be a game then. Okay, that's it. Thank you for participating in the workshop today. Please look at your syllabus. Use it as a reference. Keep it with you at work. It's a great reference to any of the information that we discussed today during the workshop. Also, anything we did talk about on hearing loss, disorders, you can get that more information on the internet. Also, now you need to reach out and find the people who organized the workshop for you and find out about your certificate.